Good morning for everyone and welcome to Barona webinar where we discuss robotics and artificial intelligence with our guests from Stora, Enso and Aitomation. My name is Sari McAvoy and I lead Barona's Finance and Accounting Recruitment team. And in today's different fields, digitalization changes our lives and we at Barona want to add value to our finance professionals by organizing events and webinars where you can learn more. For housekeeping purposes, you can send your questions to us online and we will answer those after this webinar. Within the next half an hour, we speak about the reasons behind process automation and opportunities in financial management. Stora Enso will tell about their journey so far and we go through how you can start the process in your business and go through key learnings and so forth. Please, Petra, introduce yourself.
Good morning, my name is Petra Teräsaho. I'm the Group Controller for Stora Enso. We started our digitalization journey in finance 2016 and have done already a lot of automations and robotizations.
And Pasi.
My name is Pasi Pölönen. I'm the co-founder of Aitomation, which is a year-old company focusing on automating all kinds of business processes. My background with robotics goes back 4 or 5 years, mainly in the financial services industry.
Thank you, Pasi. And Pasi will start with the question, why?
So basically, if we look at the finance function, there's plenty of reasons why automation really fits into the finance function. This is a combination of studies from McKinsey and Gartner, basically looking at the volume of manual steps in finance function is really high, and according to them, some 70–80% of the manual steps can be automated. And the reason there is lots of manual steps is basically there's a number of separate systems that finance uses, and usually you can say that large systems solve the large problems, and then humans kind of fill the gaps in between. And now, with the modern technology, you can start filling the gaps with automation. There's also an issue because of the number of different systems that you end up cleaning up a lot of data. In this system I have these dimensions, in that system I have those dimensions. I need to match them up to combine and feed them to a third system, for example, or do a reporting in another dimension. So you end up cleaning a lot of manual cleanup data, which can be automated. And because of a lot of the manual work, there's a lot of room for human error. Hence, there's plenty of rework that could be avoided by doing things right in the first place. So overall, the opportunity is large in finance. And what basically we've learned, and McKinsey's put on nicely on paper, is that you really need to look at the process and the technology in combination in order to do proper automation. I mean, initially you can do task automation by just automating the steps that humans do today, but to really get the benefits, you need to start looking at how do you actually do the things differently, redesign the process around the automation capabilities that today's technology allows, and then kind of bring in the different technologies and the minimum viable product thinking, i.e. allow to go for initial automation for initial problem and then iterate to become better on the processes that are involved. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but wanted to highlight that there's plenty of room for automation in different functions or different teams or work areas of finance. Even if you go into audit, treasury, risk management, there is 20% is still 1 in 5. But in the areas of accounting operations, basic accounts receivables, accounts payable, there's plenty of clicks and Excels, as we call them, cleaning and reformatting, matching and reconciliation work that could largely be automated, as well as then you put a little bit of intelligence in there, and then you get a lot more automation focus or potential in the overall thing. A little bit on kind of depending on your maturity, on what the automation would involve. Basically, if we start from the left, we talk about relatively easy and relatively short high volume tasks, usually done by one individual at one go, that you can then put the robot in place and run a lot faster. I mean, basically they say an RPA robot runs 5 times faster than a human when doing a simultaneous or similar task. The challenge with the task automation is that the opportunities, especially in smaller corporations, run out pretty fast. Large corporations tend to have plenty of these type of things, but smaller ones, you run out of business cases pretty quickly. Hence, you need to move into kind of up in longer use cases, longer workflows, and that's when looking at the process combined with RPA and other tools like cloud computing, tables, analytics, then gives you a lot more room for automation. And as you do a little bit more of these longer use cases, then you actually start getting to the point whereby you can start looking at, am I organized around in this topic? Do I need to, can I centralize something? Can I decentralize something because of the nature of the way it's automated so far? But this is a more of a maturity question and depends on where you are, what the focus is and what the objectives of your automation are. But I think enough of theory. We'll move over to Petra and the real life cases.
Okay, so let's look at our journey so far. We started 2016 with 4 proof of concepts in finance, and we realized that the benefits can be huge. So we set up a proper RPA program in the company together with IT and a few other functions. During 2017, we robotized 8 processes, 7 of them in finance. Then in 2018, we set up 2 centers of excellences, one in finance, one in IT, and in-house RPA capability. So we have people who can code robots and maintain them. Currently, we have 55 processes robotized, 15 of them in finance. I will now show you a few examples what we have done. So the first example is about validating supplier master data request. So here the human sends a supplier master data request to SAP workflow, and the robot will check from the European website the VAT number, from the country local tax authority website the local tax number, checks that there are no duplicates in SAP for the same supplier, checks that the supplier is not on any financial sanction lists, and then checks the DUNS number. There's an audit trail for all these checks. And then if everything is okay, the robot sends the request for an approval for a human. And this is saving us on an annual basis 2 full FTEs. So, and we have the same actually for customer master data, and there the saving is 1 FTE. Then the next example is about reconciling SAP and our consolidation system, HFM, Hyperion. So first, the robot runs a report from SAP and then a report from HFM, downloads those to Excel, where then the reconciliation is done. And the reconciliation file is saved to our intranet. And then if everything is okay, there's a notification sent to an accountant who can then check that everything is okay. And here we are saving 29 hours during the quarterly closing. And this is critical because things have to be done on a very hectic closing time. So it's important to find these savings. And then what we have realized, we started first with simple RPA, but then we realized that actually there are a lot of other tools on the market today, and we have to find the right tool for the right purpose. So RPA is not the best solution for everything. So we have used, for example, our team who can code robots can also then use Python, Visual Basics, SAP scripting, SQL, and then we are also using optical character recognition software. I'm getting back to that a little bit later. But this is important that this is actually, this becomes more complicated when you get a little bit further, but it's good to start from RPA, simple RPA. Then I want to show you an example where we have combined RPA and machine learning. And this is about supplier invoice processing. So the fact is that every supplier invoice is different. So they are not standard. So RPA cannot read those. Here is just a dummy invoice, but all the fields that are marked either with red or green are needed to process the invoice. So we have created a standard template where all these fields are mentioned, which are needed to process the invoices. And what then needs to happen is that the OCR, the optical character recognition software, reads all incoming invoices, and we have to teach the software to read different kinds of fields. So here is an example in how many different ways the PO number field can be called. And actually, this is just a fraction of the examples. There are many more. So we have to teach the software that the PO number field can be called customer PO number, customer reference number, or in any language, etc. Tilausnumero in Finnish, etc. So we are teaching, and this is the machine learning part, that we are teaching the software that they understand that there are all these exceptions. And then the software can fill in the standard template and find the data from each different invoice into the standard template. And once then all the data is in the standard template, the robot can continue processing in this point 4. When we have standardized the invoice data, robot can continue processing. And with this one, we are saving many FTEs. We are still in the process of getting this into place, so it's not yet 100% working, because we have to teach supplier by supplier every different type of invoice to the software. So this takes time, but finally the FTE savings will be huge.
Thank you very much, Petra. And then Pasi will carry on and tell how we can achieve all this.
Yes, when we speak with clients, the question I hear most is basically, where do I start? How do I prioritize? How do I select the technology to use, and so forth? They tend to be the key questions that come out. And my kind of rule of thumb is that, understand what's taking the time of your team, and listen to what activities they dislike, and that's probably your hotspot for automation. It means that there is a manual tasks, tedious manual tasks that the team is doing, and it's taking a lot of their time. So it both takes time and effort, and then drives motivation down. That's the sweet spot to start. That's the easy kind of solution. If you look at more of the theory, you can select any one of your top 5, and you're likely to get the best benefits as long as you get it through. And that's the other thing, is motivation on starting. The use cases or the workflows that you see on the chart overall is one of our case study. And basically, we started this process by mapping 3 of their kind of most potential things. We did a theoretical, okay, what would you do on this case? What's the actual workflow there? How you redesign the process around that? And then from there, we selected into one that we started with piloting on. And then now, 9 months later, we practically gone through all of these use cases. Some of them are still kind of in pre-production, but all of these are done on one finance function. And the overall benefits that you tend to get from is increased speed, especially in the daily operations. You tend to get a lot of things done that usually was the beginning of the day is now done before people come to work. The robots work at night, and then the people start working on exceptions when they arrive, not on the kind of standard accounts receivables, accounts payable tasks, for example. Or at peak loads, you can push a lot of the manual clicking and saving stuff out of human hands, which helps then at the kind of crunch time to get things done faster. And overall, you start with iteration, you do one, you start learning, you realize that, okay, we can do this, and then you kind of evolve from there into the next step. The way we look at the process, and this is not just for finance, but we tend to always start from the business objective. Then and it used to be, or usually is, customer experience or operative efficiency, depending a little bit on what it is. And we tend to think that what's customer experience to do with the finance function, but tends to be quite a lot. If your invoicing is not correct, or if you're not processing payments fast enough, or whatever else it becomes, suddenly there is a customer satisfaction impact. Hence, we need to understand whether it's the internal management or operative management as a customer, or external customer. We need to understand their requirements. Then we go into the actual data flow. Our process is to understand what actually happens in the process through data, and then redesign the kind of automation with technology around which steps can be automated, taking into account the existing big systems, and which then have to be either done manually because of complexity, or because of, for example, 4 eyes thinking that the robot does the first 2 eyes, and then an actual real 2 eyes take the second one. From kind of the automation perspective, this is both our kind of thinking framework, as well as then there's some technology elements in it. But basically, we tend to separate the kind of what we call the work management, i.e. the process orchestration layer, and then the actual doing layer, which tends to be initially the robots, but then there's a number of other technologies that can be used, as Petra already mentioned. There's plenty of low-code technology out there that can be used for automation. And with this approach, you can kind of take a lot of waiting time away from the robot, which tends to be high at licensing cost, and use cheaper technologies for the waiting, and then use the robot for the things that is really worth it. Also, the kind of orchestration models approach allows us to do a lot of the modeling, as well as tracking, both operational tracking, does the process actually flow, as well as then user reporting, have we completed the task that we gave to the robot in time, which then allows for a lot better process management of the overall process. And then further down the road, once you've done multiple processes and workflows, then allows you for a different view for how to manage your processes. And in finance function, this becomes useful in things that, like, for example, closing process, when you have multiple companies that need to go kind of layer by layer, you can start seeing which of the companies is potentially holding you up, or which of the countries is holding you up, or if it's on a daily basis, the same thing may apply, that there is one hotspot that's kind of keeping the entire process waiting. And but overall, it's really a question of selecting the right tool for the right purpose and getting the efficiency out of that from that point of view. If I summarize kind of the approach in overall is really, I'll start from the bottom. It's the first important step is to get started. Working on theory doesn't take you any business benefits. Actually trying it out does. And our thinking goes so that you start from the process design, you understand why you're doing the thing, what you need to do, and then you go into selecting the right tools. And initially, RPA is the easiest to start with, but there's plenty of others. And once you kind of looked at your objectives, looked at the tools, you take it to implementation, and little by little get to optimal value and higher level of automation overall, which then gives you higher quality, higher accuracy, better compliance, and save time. So you put the human where the human is meant to work, i.e. where you actually need brain power.
Great, and then Petra will carry on with the benefits and learnings.
All right. So, benefits of robotics. First of all, the robot is working 24/7. Of course, some maintenance breaks are needed. There are no typos, high quality. Of course, then this leads to time saving means cost savings. And as Pasi said, then humans can focus on analytics. That's our purpose, why we are automating things. A robot can work on one process at a time, but then the robot's time can be shared between different functions at different times. So a human is normally working only on one department with the HR or IT or finance, etc. But the robot can work on all these functions. First, for example, do a finance process, then switch to HR process, etc. So we can optimize the time 100%. And RPA really forces for process improvements. The robot cannot work if the process is not working and standardized. And then this is now related really to what is the biggest challenges we have had. So two things, low quality master data and non-standardized processes. So the robot can really not work with unstructured data. So you have to start looking into standardizing and simplifying your processes. And it's also good to review the processes and not just robotize the process you already have, but see that is this now the most simplest, leanest process? And if not, simplify and standardize the process first and then robotize. And I think it's important to have the end-to-end process view. So for example, when we talk about purchase to pay or order to cash and so on, so look at the whole end-to-end process and not only what finance is doing, but what the whole business is doing with these processes. That's the best way. Of course, it's not realistic to start robotizing the whole end-to-end process at the beginning. You start somewhere, but you should look at the whole process since the beginning. And master data. If master data is not in order, you can still robotize things, but it will help if master data would be fixed. So for example, we have a massive master data program ongoing at the moment to fix this part as well. So what are the learnings so far after about 3 years working on these topics? So change management, it is very important to communicate to people the benefits and new opportunities, because people are scared that our robots now taking our work. Partially, yes, but then there will be new work, new roles. We have already a lot of new roles that we didn't have about 2 years ago. The robotics team, advanced data analytics team, etc. So people need to learn new skills, and they need to understand that this is positive for them. People don't need to work like a robot anymore, but work on more analytical stuff. Robots will do the basics. And you need a good RPA governance. This means you need to understand, this needs to be done together with the IT, so that the robots are well thought through how they fit into the company IT architecture. And as said before, really you have to first simplify the processes and not robotize old, not simple processes. That will not be a good idea. And then you have to document the processes well before automation. And it is possible to reduce people, but it creates new roles, and we have to be ready for that. New competencies are needed. We have organized a lot of trainings. First, the basic training for all finance people, so that everybody understands what robots can do and what it can mean. And then people can think how RPA could help in their own work. And it's also interesting for people that to work alongside robots. And team leads needs to understand that they are also managing now robots and people. We have even given names to the robots, and we've been planning to put them to the organization chart, because they are also doing work like humans used to do. And then right tool for the right purpose. So RPA is not the only way to automate. We have to look at the other tools as well, and then combine RPA with the other technologies.
Thanks very much, Petra. Very insightful. So we carry on by wrapping up our summary and going through key findings.
So once more, so automations and RPA can be done for standardized and structured digitized data, and choose the right tool for the right purpose. And then when you really want to scale up and look into the end-to-end processes, then we have to start using machine learning and more advanced tools, because there will be parts in the processes which are not standard, like in the example of invoice processing. We will never be able to get standardized invoices from all our suppliers. And we have to work on the basics if we really want to scale up. So master data should be in order, and we need to have lean and standardized simple processes before implementing automations. So we view our robots as virtual workforce. They are improving quality, compliance, and speed of process execution. And of course, we are saving money, but most importantly, our people can work on more value-adding activities. So automations and RPA takes the robot out of the human.
If I, for my part, summarize, I think overall it's good to understand that the automation opportunity in finance is large. There's plenty of automation potential, and kind of as came out very clearly on the Petra's presentation as well, process design is as important as technology. This is not a technology exercise. This is a process exercise enabled by technology. And then if you're kind of in the starting of your road, I think the most important thing is to get started and start learning, visit, ask around, do benchmarks with kind of peer companies, and then define your objectives for automation. Why are you doing this? And then just get started. If you're more already having some of the robots in work, start looking for longer workflows, bigger end-to-end processes, use broader toolbox, and kind of link your bots, because the longer pieces allow you to really start looking at the kind of work split between human and a bot and optimize the kind of work there. And if you're already very advanced, you tend then to have lots of robots, but very often in the mode of kind of islands of automation, that you have one bot there, and then the number of bots increases the number of points of failure, because robots do have sick days as well, unfortunately. And hence, then you need to start looking at process monitoring, process management in a more robust way, in a way that allows you to monitor it back through. But it really depends on where you are currently in the overall approach of your automation, but there is plenty of room to grow. The technology is evolving all the time, and that's the nice part of it.
Thank you, Pasi, and thank you, Petra, for today. Thanks for everyone for participating in today's webinar. Whenever you have any routines or processes and you'd like to free up some more time, you can come back to this webinar. Feel free to reach out to us for helping hand and questions. Thanks again, and looking forward to having you with us next autumn when we carry on with our events and webinars. Have a lovely summer. Thanks.